This is one of the most anticipated and exciting electric cars that I've been looking to get on the channel, never mind you. So welcome to Nice, where it's sunny one minute and like something out of Mordor the next, but we're having a look at the new Renault 5. But is it new? Because it's obviously based on a retro car, so let's find out how much retro goodness actually has made it into the production vehicle. And what spec versions are we getting in Ireland? We'll cover all of that here on the video today. Again, those old enough will remember those headlights, they weren't quite like that on the original car, so they were more of a square look. Now they have put the square look into the daytime running lights and the fogs down below, so there is still a bit of a nod, like this black strip across the Renault badge is quite flush, and again well documented, but the vent air intake, which is no longer needed now, is a battery indicator. It's not a exact science as to how your state of charge is, but it will give you a rough estimate when you quickly glance at the car, and it's more fun than having maybe 3 flashing LEDs at the bottom of the dashboard. So again, every angle this car looks good. There's no real way you look at it and go, oh, don't like this, don't like that. The customization is incredible. There's 104 different ways you can customize this car. I think 30 something of them are digital. You can get the 5 on the roof if you like. You might just prefer the kind of, this black. That might be enough. It might be overkill for certain people, but there's a lot of customization in the car, which is kind of cool. 80 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt charging speed. 2 different sizes of batteries. The smallest battery will be the cheapest and should be the lightest. So if you're in a purist electric kind of way, if that makes any sense, it's actually the smaller battery you want, because that would be the lightest car, should be more nimble, should be better to drive. Look, there's so many videos about this car now on YouTube. There's not much point in me covering all the stuff that you possibly have watched already, but let's just cover the green, because everyone's seen this car a lot in yellow. I think yellow is still the colour, having seen it in the flesh, but I think this green is still nice, and it's a standard free colour, so you don't pay extra for it, and it's metallic, which is quite impressive. These are slightly different alloys that you may have seen on the yellow production cars, so this is meant to represent the face of a watch with just 5 on it. This red strip can come in gold, black and red. Obviously if you get it in black with a black roof, it's not really going to stand out. For those of us old enough to remember the Renault 5, especially the turbo versions, you'll remember these lights. That little kick out there is an actual nod to the turbo version of the car. If you were ever someone's older brother had one of them, or sister way back when, maybe you were brought up the Dublin mountains in a good way in one of those for a quick jaunt. This strip is also still reminiscent of it. There's not a huge amount of black stuff going on, and I like that, because sometimes the plastic is just too much and it kind of cheapens the car. So I think visually very impressive, very striking. Perhaps you've seen some of the reviews already saying people down in Monaco and things are giving it the thumbs up, and it can be sometimes hard to excite French people, but they seem to be excited by this car nonetheless. So that's the exterior, and it looks really poppy in this green colour. So let's talk about engines for a second, or motors, as I suppose we should technically be saying. 150 brake horsepower. There's vehicle to load, so you can charge something else from this car at a speed of 3.4 kilowatt. Vehicle to grid is also there, so there is some future proofing in the car. And the AC version, which we're not getting in Ireland, which doesn't have any DC charge, will do 22 kilowatt on 3-phase charging. Very handy, but something that Renault say there isn't a huge market for in our country. Lengthwise 3922, width is 1774 and 1499, all in millimeters of course, and a maximum towing capacity of just 500 kilos. But this is a small car, and you might have to see it in the flesh to see how small the footprint of it is. I don't think you'd want to be towing something that is 1,000, 1,500 kilos in weight anyway. Renault is on board. He's the virtual assistant, like that little paper clip on Microsoft Windows in the 90s. He's there. The Google-based system is here, just over 10 inches for this screen. Quite a wide screen for the driver displays. Again, a lot of this part is stuff we've seen in Renault models before, including the steering wheel, the physical buttons for climate control. Not a bad thing, I'm just saying we've seen them before. The vents, however, are a little bit different. Obviously the fabric and texture and the seats all feels good, as does the retro lining in the roof. There's no Jesus handles in anywhere on the car, and the Google-based system is brilliant. It's a very strange quirk, but there's no park on the stock here, which you can also customize. You put it into neutral and you put in the handbrake and put that in park, but it's just a little bit uncertain as to, have I put it in park or not? Is the car going to roll away or not? A lot of the textiles and fabrics are 100% recycled, so there's plastic bottles, bits from the ocean, recycling fishing nets, all those things that we've come to get familiar with. A good size wireless charging pad down here for one device, and an armrest, which already has a bit of a, I wouldn't say a tear, oh sorry, it is a tear, so be careful with sharp objects, bracelets, watches, any sort of straps here. Doesn't seem to like them. It wasn't me, Renault. Look, I have nothing on this arm. And again, look, a lot of the stuff we have seen before, load of safety stuff on board, and you can turn off the beeps for breaking the speed limit by even a kilometre by the shortcut button, which is on the left here in left-hand drive cars. I think these bucket seats are brilliant. Again, they do remind me of the original car. Definitely worth, you know, upping the trim levels. There's 2 on the higher spec and 3 on the lower spec versions of the car, the ones we're getting in Ireland. So look, everywhere you look, it's a fun factor. It feels like a fun car. And do you know what? It's about time, particularly something with a battery and a motor, was able to make us really smile. And I promise you, you will get that from this car. And that's even without driving. Now, these are not the top spec seats, but they're still wonderful. They have a denim jean effect on them. They look great. They're nicely split up. There's still a bit of bolsters on the lower part of the bench, but make no mistake, it is snug in the back. The rear door handles are high up and they add to the aesthetics of the outside of the car, but they do make them harder to reach for small kids. And small kids are probably the best humans to fit back here because it is kind of snug. Now, I still love the retro vibe going on with the roof materials. There's no, again, grab handles in the back of the car, so if you are having fun with this car, and trust me, you can, there'll be nowhere for people to grab onto as you're going around some twisty roads. There's nothing to charge or anything back here. There's no armrest. You wouldn't really get one in this segment of car anyway. Renault have put some cool little retro lights in the back. Look, it is very, very snug. You can see I'm not particularly tall and I'm wedged right up against here. There's nowhere really for your feet to go under unless you raise those seats, but there is a totally flat floor on the positive side. But dare I say it, forget the Porsche, have a midlife crisis car in this. It would make a perfect second car, particularly if you remember the original, and it'll put a smile on your face every time you drive it. And it's not €1,860 to tax every year, unlike something from Stuttgart. There's an additional 19 litres of space inside the cabin. You always know there's a small boot coming when they talk about what's inside the cabin. So we have 326 litres officially down here. It's not as big as an E208, but it's slightly bigger. So I'm being attacked by a wasp here. It is slightly bigger than a Mini Cooper. And there's a huge lip coming in and out of here. So if you were to put your dog in here, you're going to have to be hauling him out. I probably don't recommend it. 60-40 split on the back, couple of shopping hook holders, a very halogen looking bulb, and that's kind of about it. But you know what, for a city car, it's absolutely fine and probably bigger than you might expect. And there is a little bit of space down below there to store your charging cable. We need more small cars in general. And the fact that the Renault 5 is so much of a personality car is an added bonus to that, because I think the more we see cars like this being affordable, being available, it will encourage more people to adopt EVs if they suit their life. I'm not someone who believes petrol and diesel is going to fall off a cliff anytime soon. I think there's life in the old fossil fuels just yet. But look, as long as it can be fun, as long as, I mean, and that is, you know, for people who I assume like watching car review videos, a car is not just an A to B. It's an extension of your personality. It's something that you have maybe aspired to buy, you enjoy driving. I mean, let's be honest, is that not why we all like cars? And on the surface, this does all that. And the fact that it's an EV, it still is quite rewarding to drive. So 150 brake horsepower mightn't seem like a huge amount, but trust me, it's enough for the size of this car. What the Renault 5 isn't is another, you know, almost 2 or 2.5 ton electric SUV. So you're not grappling with those levels of physics. You can get a little bit of traction loss if you accelerate out of corners, again in a fun way. The ride is supple enough. I mean, it's not overly harsh at all, but it's still firm enough where you can enjoy the car. Acceleration is always brisk, the steering is sharp, it's got an amazing turning circle. These are all the characteristics that make an EV better than the average EV. I like the brakes, there's a good bite in them. They feel less like some of the brakes that we've had from EVs. So that, again, part of regen versus friction brakes, it's just better. This is definitely up there, one of the best EVs I've personally driven, and I've driven some really expensive ones, some fairly normal price ones, your typical family SUV ones obviously, and this is, it's just nice, it's fun, it puts a smile on your face. Driving around, other people are giving you the thumbs up, cyclists even going as we were going by, and that's happening all over Nice and into Monaco today. And again, it's a good litmus test whether people see the fun factor in a car. So floor it, and there's plenty of urgency. It's not neck snapping, but again, it's what you want. I do think the front wheels in wet weather in Ireland might be a little bit difficult for traction if you do floor the car, but overall, you know, it's good through corners. It's sharp where it needs to be, and it's comfortable where it needs to be, and it's a good size for navigating cities, which is just another reason why I've been impressed with the drive today. Let's just test the brakes now at a pedestrian crossing. As the late Cilla Black would have said, a Lara fun. And I don't know why I'm calling Cilla Black. Casting my mind back to Saturday nights as a child when Blind Date was on. And here's our Graham. Anyway, it's fun. It's fun with a capital F. As long as the price isn't too spicy. Renault Ireland tell us they're still in negotiations. It would probably be November before they get an actual full-on price. We know it's from 25 in Europe, but unfortunately we are in Europe, but just the Irish government seems to forget about that and wants to slap VRT onto our lovely car prices. So, check out my summary, but I think you've got an idea of what I'm trying to say about this really fun, hugely anticipated car from Renault. By now you're probably wondering, well, is it worth the hype? I mean, we first saw this car in 2021, mid you know what, and it's been a long time coming. There are some quirks, but it's a French car, so you perhaps would expect them to be. I think it looks great. It drives pretty well, like really, really well, especially for an EV, but I'd nearly put it in the territory of the fact that it's an EV is kind of irrelevant. It's springy, it's good into corners, doesn't feel particularly heavy, great driving dynamics. The weird no park thing is very, very odd. I don't know if they can sort that in a software update. The fact that you put it into neutral, flick the handbrake, you can obviously put the auto setting. It's just a level of, is this thing parked? Is it going to roll when I get out of it? It's a silly thing that I don't understand. But anyway, that aside, and obviously the Irish prices. I mean, the cheapest version of this is going to be about 25,000 euro in Europe. You know yourself, add on the Irish, sure it'd be grand taxes, and that gets a bit frustrating. But if I just wanted a fun EV, this is kind of out there all on its own for the price. And one thing I copped driving this today, it puts it seriously up to the ID2 from VW, which should be here in 2025 if they are sticking to their word, and there will be a GTI version of that car. And this could certainly help Volkswagen find out where they need to go if they want to electrify something with a GTI badge. But for this, it's a big thumbs up. I love it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye from Nice.